Welcome to the UpLevel Martial Arts Community Podcast. My name is Jason Guyton. Thank you for joining us. Recently, I spoke with Mr. William Wegert about the features, advantages, and benefits of the UpLevel at Home Academy. Without further delay, enjoy the call. Mr. William Wegert, how are you, sir?
I'm doing awesome, Mr. Guyton. Thanks so much for having me on today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for doing this. I think at this point,
Of course,
this is your maybe third, if not fourth.
Second, actually, I think. Wait, has it been three? I think it's only second.
No, we did your very first one, which was where you helped me learn how to do the ropes of podcasting. Then you were in the very first State of the Community, and now you're here to talk about.
You're right. Okay, shoot, called me out. This is three.
Yeah,
Mr. Guyton's got better memory than I do.
And so, yeah, you've been the most repeated interviewee, and now we're here to talk about the UpLevel at Home.
Yes, super excited about that journey, and thanks for having me back a third time. I guess you like me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, since we've talked, a lot of your core responsibilities have changed in the UpLevel community. So, can we talk about that?
Absolutely, yes. So, my role prior to UpLevel at Home Academy was teaching the beginner and intermediate level classes in the brick and mortar local school, Charlottesville. And then at the time where COVID started, we had some people kind of working on the online, but Mr. Sam Wegert was looking for somebody to kind of take over that position. And I had always been in my vision to move down to Charlotte to open a school there. And when all this kind of came about, I was like, you know what? It could be a cool opportunity to try something different, maybe not do the typical route of opening a school on my own, but to try something new. So I was like, let's just say I want to do it. I want to do it. So he kind of tagged me in. And at that point, there was some transitions happening in Charlottesville where I knew I was going to be moving out eventually. So I was like, you know what, let me kind of give the beginner group over to Mr. Bushy. So he kind of took over that side of things. But I wanted to stay consistent with my intermediate students as I knew a lot of them and things like that. So at this point, my focus is intermediate level at Charlottesville. And then I have the at-home academy program. And a lot of that for me is just kind of the very beginning roles, whether it's enrolling new students, teaching the beginner classes, inspiring people to black belt, things like that. I have some other instructors who are working really diligently on the intermediate classes while I teach the brick and mortar, and the advanced classes normally while I'm doing some kind of the beginner and basic program upgrades and things like that.
Cool. Yeah, when speaking with Sam at one point, he was telling me that, I thought the online at-home academy was actually a product of the pandemic, but it seems like he was thinking about this well before, but the pandemic of the coronavirus kind of forced his hand in helping this new outlet for UpLevel come to fruition, correct?
Absolutely. It's very crazy how that started. So Mr. Sam Wegert, always had this vision. His goal is to impact 1% of the world's population, 74 million people. And so I think he understood that we weren't necessarily going to get there the fastest way, or we weren't going to get there the most efficient way if it was just brick and mortar karate schools, although that's definitely still one of his passions and as he builds that out. And so when COVID hit, Mr. Sam kind of saw right through it. Some of the instructors, maybe even including myself, are like, it's just, the 2-week lockdown, I think was the initial thing that happened, right? Like, hey, 2-week, and then we'll be back to normal was the vision. And Mr. Sam saw right through that. He's like, guys, this is not going to change in 2 weeks. Like, this is going to be a long-term thing, and we need to be able to pivot now. And so he put all of the resources, and I have to give him so much credit and honor for that. Students will compliment me, although it wasn't me, as Mr. Sam all the time, and like, you guys were so good at pivoting so fast, like, thank you, it's such like a blessing, like, thank you for pivoting, and you guys were so good at that. And I have to give all the credit to Mr. Sam Wegert. He saw right through everything and made a shift right away. And it was maybe a little rough to start with, but kind of ended up where we are now, so we're super grateful.
No, it's been great. As a participant and a student, it's really helped during the lockdown, and even times when I just couldn't make the 20-minute drive to town or anything like that. It's been really, really beneficial to help me stay on track, even though I've kind of gotten a little behind in the pandemic. I definitely use the online academy as another strong outlet for the martial arts training.
Beautiful. Yes, sir. Yeah, we're excited to have you back too.
Thank you.
We are.
Another thing is, that's exciting about it is that you no longer have geographic boundaries for the UpLevel. Like, you don't have to be in a brick and mortar class.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'd say the two biggest limits that were just shattered by this at home academy was number one, the geographic, like you mentioned, we can have students from anywhere. We have students in Canada now. That's kind of our newest development. And also the limit to how many people we can have in a class at a time. And we also can have as many instructors as we want. And because of breakout rooms, I can be teaching my own class of 3 students uh, within our normal big class as well. So it's a really cool way of being able to shadow those maybe different limits that we've had in the past.
Great. So how many you're in Canada now, and how many states are you covering?
Canada. Oh, the last time I checked, it was 19, I believe. But
19
that was a couple
states.
months ago. I think so. I think we probably have more now.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
And so
Texas, Florida, Colorado, California, Washington, Hawaii, Canada, just all over the place. That's
nice.
amazing.
Well, tell me a little bit.
Amazing.
I mean, I know how it works, but for somebody that's watching this
Mhm.
podcast or this YouTube video, listening to the podcast or watching the YouTube video, let's talk about how it works. Um, so, are you still doing the YouTube broadcast at the same time while you're syncing
No,
it with Zoom?
actually, no, we took that out. So what's really cool is as Zoom develops as well, we'll have more capabilities, I think, as people are using this platform even more and more. So I got to do a Tony Robbins event the other day, and they did some things with Zoom that I've never seen before. And so just figuring out how we can implement some of those as well. But one of the first things we did actually was completely nick the idea of a second device. It was just so complicated. You had to have 2 devices up, YouTube and a Zoom. We're like, no, we don't want to do that anymore. So we just have Zoom, and we have our instructor screen sharing the classes as well. And so that way you can simply just log onto Zoom and you have your class and your instructions all on one device. So it's really easy. It also gives the instructor a lot more control to be able to pause or fast forward or slow down or do whatever they need to rather than being on a set schedule. Oh, and the volume, you can talk over the music much better than if somebody had his YouTube super high. So that was kind of the one thing. So it's super convenient. You log on to Zoom, you jump in, you have all of your instructors there, you have your class experience there, and you follow along and you put in breakout rooms, you can work with partners and pretty much everything you'd be able to do in a normal class.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. And then can you also just at your convenience do the YouTube watch on YouTube or follow
Ah,
along, or would it be better if you synced it with the actual scheduled time of the classes?
Great question. You can do both. And I definitely have a lot of students who will do both as well. If they want the extra instruction, they'll do it one way. Sometimes people like to go slower, or some people like to go a little faster. And so they can do the class on their own time as well, completely unrelated to any schedule that we have, whether it's YouTube broadcasting or whether it's the live Zoom classes. But we have all the recordings up at all times. So students can watch that on their own.
So martial
So
arts
yeah,
on
they have
demand,
access to both on demand,
net
kind of
kicks.
like Netflix, net kicks. I love
Nice.
it.
Well,
That's
I
great.
know as a subscriber to the At Home Academy's newsletter, or at least being on the listserv, you send out weekly uh, micro blogs, I want to call them. They're,
Yeah,
you
that's
know, they're like
good.
2-minute reads, and they're actually very phenomenal. And where do you find the inspiration for those? Is it just what you're feeling
Yeah,
that day, or
that's a great question. Well, kind of backstory. So I'm supposed to. My goal is to do it 3 times a week. Um, but depending, I think, on my mood and how I'm like, a lot of times I think my inspiration does come from what I'm working through. And so recently, there's been a ton of different challenges from both personal life, whether it's mentally or professionally, things like that. I'm no superhero, like I go through everything. And I think I purposely do push myself in a lot of areas too. Like I'll put myself in very uncomfortable situations. And like one of my strongest beliefs, I think, is growth, right? So I'll just like put myself in these places where I know it's gonna be uncomfortable and I get, it could be infuriating sometimes. And so recently, maybe I've been in a little bit more of like just trying to figure out how to deal with problems and like being down, but in like a good way, like trying to solve it, trying to get better at it. And so recently, I think my stuff, if I were to write exactly about how I was feeling at that time, it'd probably be a lot of negative stuff. And so I've been tailoring back to about once a week during this time. But that's not a negative thing, actually. I think it's really good. I think it's really healthy. I think I'm growing and learning a lot during this time. And I think we all go through phases and things like that. So I'm trying to kind of enjoy it and like be in the moment, even through the pains of some stuff. Um, but yeah, I would say my inspiration comes definitely from what I'm working on. And sometimes if I don't have anything that's like, oh, I feel pretty good right now, like nothing's standing out, then I'll maybe pull from something that I've worked on in the past or heard from the past, or even something that I've heard that I haven't actively worked on yet or
Hmm.
tried to master. So it can come from futuristic, present, or past. I would say those are my three different
Yeah.
areas that I can pull
There
from,
were a
and
few
different
that
examples
were
there.
that kind of hit really well with me and were very timely for what I was
Ooh.
going through at the same time. One of them was, I think you were either microwaving or cooking something, and you just paused. You
Oh
didn't fill
yeah.
that space with checking social media. You just took time to pause and relax,
Yeah.
and that's one thing that I've been learning a lot during the pandemic is to take time. Not every
Mhm.
moment has to be filled with doing something, but to just take a moment to pause and breathe and relax. And
Right.
so that one was very timely. And then
Yeah.
the
And you had just shared with me earlier about your social media thing too.
yeah, only do very limited social media anymore. And then of
Yeah,
course
that's so cool.
another one of my favorite things is the Battle of the Two Wolves. You microblogged on that as well.
Mm,
So that's really great. And anybody watching or listening on this, if you haven't looked up the analogy of the two wolves, we both have inside of us lives a dark wolf and a lighter wolf, and one is
yeah.
fueled by anger, hate, and the other one is fueled by love and passion and energy. And whichever one's the one you feed is the one that ends up winning the battle within you. So I
Right.
think this comes from a Native
That
American story, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah. Have you heard it before I sent it out?
I
Have you
had
heard that
actually,
one before?
yeah,
You
yeah.
had, yeah, that's good. Yeah, so that's actually been a journey I've been on recently is like I think when I first started the CIT program, a part of UpLevel, that was like my college. I never went to college, like I just did the CIT program. And that was really good, a lot about positivity and things like that. And then I got into this like I started following maybe or seeing or befriending some people who were maybe very, I would say, emotionally in tune or just like very like deep thinkers. And they talked a lot about not positivity, like almost toxic positivity. And I was like, oh, that's an interesting concept. So I kind of dug into that and like sitting with your feelings and like doing all this stuff, kind of the, like maybe even the sorrow or the anger and the things like that, like being with that. And so I had this weird battle in my mind too of like what I've been taught in CIT, like being positive, and then what I've been taught from these like what was supposed to be the ideal person of like, really in tune with their emotions and things like that. And what I learned is you're supposed to do both, but for some reason, I got way onto the other side of like just focusing on the negative. All right. And so then you realize that there's a balance between the two. But you
Yeah.
do have to focus more on the good wolf, of feeding the good wolf. Like you can take a second with the bad wolf, with the evil or the dark or the anger or whatever it is, but then you've got to be able to switch it back to the other version, or it just kind of eats you alive a little bit.
Gotcha. Excellent point. Excellent
Yeah.
point. All right. Well, we talked about the At Home Academy and your microblogs and things that are going on in
Mhm.
your life. So let's talk about what's going on next for the At Home Academy or Mr. William Wiegert on a personal level.
Oh, good question. At Home Academy is a very challenging, it's very interesting. Um, it sits really well with some people, and maybe other people don't mesh with it as well. Kind of the at-home learning. What's interesting is I found that a lot of people can learn better. Like I'm watching the martial arts, and obviously I've been teaching in a brick and mortar school for 12 years, 13 years. I take it back, it's probably more like 10 years. And so I could see how well people learn martial arts and how good they get. But then I watch these people at Home Academy, and what's interesting is there isn't necessarily a huge difference between the two. It's kind of like how much work you're willing to put in. Like we have everything we need to be able to teach someone, but maybe they can learn a little bit better if they're like visual or auditory learners or things like that. And so kind of the next step I think for UpLevel at Home Academy is just cracking the code. We're kind of on the leading edge of almost this industry of at Home Academy martial arts training. We understand that the world is eventually going to go to more of that style of learning. But I also heard something the other day was like sometimes the world's not ready. Like sometimes the world's not ready. And so I think that COVID was good timing for us, at least in that sense of getting this thing out there. And I think that this could be a really cool switch. I think it's going to come with a lot of challenges as well. I think our goal is to like how can we continue to service and how can we continue to add great value to more and more people and help reach towards Mr. Sandwig's goal of 74 million people and kind of crack this code that not many people, if anyone, is really doing. So I think that's kind of next for this program. For Mr. William Wiegert, I would say definitely At Home Academy. I'm super pumped about that, and the different things that come with that. We've met so many cool people with so many cool families that have never stepped foot in karate school, but are already so good and so passionate about it. And I love seeing that. For me, I think it's continuing to find my motivation and drive within that, and really pushing it to be better, to staying keeping my nose to the grindstone, surrounding myself with the right people to kind of help build me up and to push me in that area as well. And then outside of that, yeah, that's kind of my big thing in the career opportunities right there. I love it.
Right.
I think it's great.
Fantastic. Well, any of the challenges that you spoke about and any of the uphill battles, I think you're well armed to take them on, and you guys are going to come out so
Mm,
victorious on the other side. You guys just do amazing things at the At Home Academy and at
thank
all
you,
the
sir.
UpLevel brick and mortar schools. So thank you, sir.
Of course, I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Awesome. So right now, your life skill of this cycle is gratitude. So let's just talk about a
Gratitude.
quick. They call it an elevator pitch. What's your elevator pitch on
Hmm.
on gratitude and what it means to you?
On gratitude. Yeah. Being grateful in every situation. I think Tony Robbins will say something. He says, what does he say? Hold on. When gratitude appears, fear disappears. There's something like that. The word is just not, which is not correct. But I've actually, that's come up in my mind a couple times when I felt very scared about something. I've just kind of switched to an attitude of gratitude. I actually, Mr. Guy, I don't know if you know this. I think you've probably heard. I'm really good at saving, and I bought myself a sports car like a couple of years ago, like my Subaru. I put some money into it, things like that. And the other day I broke down and I was so upset. I was like, like, what is going wrong? I'm so mad at this thing. But at that moment, I think I thought of the gratitude and I was like, I can't be upset about this. I was like, this has taught me so many great lessons, so much
Hmm.
patience, like so many things that I've gained from this, and even learning what I don't want to do in the future. Like, it's an expensive lesson, but it's a lesson that I'm super grateful to learn. It made me appreciate, like, it made me not appreciate materialistic things, which is an amazing learning lesson that I've learned at a young age now. Like truly, like, I don't feel like I want stuff. Like, I don't have any desire for that after this thing. So
Good.
yeah, I think that's one way I've really applied it to my life, and kind of a recent situation that I've been like super frustrated with. So I think the fear, like replacing that with gratitude, and then just in the moments where you're like, this really sucks. I think there's so many ways you can be grateful for things, and it really reframes the situation and
Absolutely.
focuses on that good wolf, right? Absolutely. And I think the gratefulness for what you do have probably helps with the materialistic thing, or wanting that materialistic thing as well. So I think it kind of ties in full circle.
Very much so. Good. Well, thank you for your time. If you have any closing thoughts or anything you want to share with the community or a challenge out there to the UpLevel community at large, the floor is yours, sir.
Mhm. Yeah. I think after we've been talking about gratitude and I've been thinking about it for my own life, I think that would be just my challenge as we wrap up this cycle. It's just like, hey, there's so many things you can always be frustrated with. You can always find problems and things all 100% of the time. But to, like, and you have to train it. Understand it's not a one-time thing. I know of a guy who was a sensei, and he would, like, every day in the shower, like, he would sit in the shower and he would just spend 2 minutes of doing like a gratefulness meditation. And because of that, your brain switches and starts searching for those things. And then it really does just bring more joy. And it's not something I've mastered yet, but it's definitely something that I've worked on throughout my time. So just an encouragement there. Like, you gotta drill it. You gotta train it. It's not an instant thing.
What is it? What'd you say the first time we talked? Motivations like bathing. You've got to keep doing it.
Yeah. It doesn't last. That's
It
why
doesn't
that's why
last.
we recommend it that's why we recommend it daily.
Fantastic. Well,
Good
thank you so much for
motivation.
your time.
Yeah,
And
it's good.
yeah, so thank you so much for your time. I hope this has been enjoyable for you. It's always a pleasure to see you and to catch up. And I look forward to seeing you in the brick and mortar and online academy.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Guy, and thanks for having me.
Thank you, sir. Huge thank you to Mr. William Wegert for taking time out of his busy schedule to talk to us about the UpLevel at Home Academy. Thank you for joining us.
This is Sam Wegert, founder of UpLevel Martial Arts. Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. We hope you found it fun and educational. If you did and it added value to your life, please share this with a friend who you think might benefit, and please give us a 5-star review. Don't forget, work hard, become a black belt leader in your life, and we'll see you in this class very soon or in one of our online communities.
I am Be sure to find and follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, and always at our website, uplevelmartialarts.com.